The only ingredient I need, the only thing I ask is the willingness, right? Just the willingness, having my intention is to heal. My intention is to be here. I have the willingness to show up, because if we have that, then it all opens. Then there's nothing that's going to stop you, right? It will be there. You will encounter what's for you on your next path, what you're needing to overcome, what you're needing to understand.
Welcome to the Phase 4 podcast, inspired by Vishen Lakhiani and Ajit Nawalkar, co-founders of EverCoach, a division of Vine Valley. In this podcast, we speak to coaches and creatives about where they were, where they are, and where they are going. This is the intersection of what we focus on expands, and your story is your superpower. My guest today is Carissa Brockman. She's a somatic therapist, yoga instructor, and she's about to be an author. Today we're going to talk about that and much more. And Carissa, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. I always love to just begin with maybe tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you ended up where you are.
Yeah, awesome. The Reader's Digest version. I'm a small town prairie child from the middle of Canada. And I would say how I ended up where I am now is I was working really hard to fit in the box of what I thought life was supposed to look like, coming from kind of the paradigm that I grew up in. And life for me, got to the point of a big crash and burn in the form of actually an abusive relationship. And it's one of those pieces where the really hard time becomes that thing that you become grateful for, because it really just blew everything open for me, and all that working to fit in the box just exploded. And so it really kind of launched me into this whole discovery of myself, of the universe, of everything, and really into also what does healing mean? What does healing look like? How many layers can we dive into this journey of healing? And so for me, it brought me to my yoga mat, just kind of learning how to breathe again and find my way back into my body, into safety in my body. And that opened up this whole realm of somatic therapy, which is really somatic therapy, just meaning like in the soma, in the body, understanding that experiences that we move through really get held and stored in our physical experience. And that when we connect to that and reconnect, we can really kind of understand some of the root causes that a lot of times our experiences kind of thread down into, and we can really support tapping into the inherent wisdom that exists within each of us to allow healing to transform in a way that it's ready to. And so that is kind of the journey that I've been following, of just exploring parts work, inner child healing. I did do my master's in counseling psychology on that talk therapy side of things, but I really have just the passion for that kind of bottom up approach and going kind of, I call it, sometimes it's like subconscious reprogramming or quantum healing. Like it gets just wild sometimes when we really get into the different layers of that healing journey. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, I love it. Some scars, right? That's what we're talking about, the trauma that's stored. I think, was it you? I think saw that you said trauma is not something that happened to us, something that's inside of us.
Yeah, that's Gabor Mate's just amazing quote. He refers to trauma being not what happened or what we moved through, but what happened inside of us as a result of it. And that is a major shift for many of us, because like a lot of times we'll go, okay, maybe this one traumatic thing happened in my life, but the rest of my life was pretty chill. And so I don't know why I'm so messed up, right? Or however we kind of talk down to ourselves about it. Or, yeah, I had some shit happen, but like it's not as bad as that person because they had like real trauma. And we really kind of get into this like rating game of what we consider trauma. And when you consider trauma as the event that took place, unfortunately, that puts us in a position where we're totally helpless to change it. We can't change what has happened, right? Then healing kind of becomes irrelevant. But if we understand that trauma is what happened inside of us as a result of the thing that happened, then we can go, oh, what beliefs did I take on? What feelings kind of got stored inside of me? How did this impact the way that I started moving through the world? Because then if I understand it's what happened inside of me, oh, there's beautiful, empowering opportunity to go in, meet that, understand that, witness that, and then start to heal and transform that. And then also it opens up the whole topic of what is trauma. And it can be anything, right? It can really, it takes off the rating scale of what we consider to be the big traumas, and it doesn't minimize those at all either. It just includes also the experiences that maybe we didn't perceive as being traumatic, but the impact it had on us inside really was traumatic on some level.
Right. And it's very subjective, right? The same experience could happen to someone. They might not even bother them. Someone else, it messes them up for a long time.
Absolutely. And that's all because it depends on what our previous experiences were before that and what beliefs we had about ourselves. And right, for one person, they might go through the exact same experience, but they had a really strong instilled belief in their worth. Whereas maybe another person had experiences that told them their worth came from succeeding, and the same, experience of quote unquote failure might suddenly now completely destroy this person's sense of self. And the other person goes, yeah, you can fail. It's fine. It doesn't say anything about me, depending on what some of those deeper experiences and beliefs are held. So absolutely, it's subjective. Yeah.
The thing for me that's like, it's not shocking now because we know it so much, but just the fact that everything for the first 7 years, like, and then it develops the rest of your life. And it's like, man, what do we do about that?
Yeah. And, I teach on the nervous system. I teach workshops and things, and I will have parents coming to me after just kind of in a bit of a panic. Like, how do I not mess up my children? Like, how do I like, because I'll give an example of I'll sometimes say the example of, maybe we were picked up late from school one time and we felt abandoned, right? And they'll go, I picked up my kid late from school. Have I traumatized them for life? And because they are such sponges at that stage, right? And a lot of child psychology research and stuff talks about when it comes to parenting, it's about being there enough, which, some research says is about like 70% of the time. If you're showing up like 70% of the time, that's enough to create a lot of healthy attachment bonding. But also, like, this is the part where we can come to see why all of us are traumatized. All of us have trauma, because in those 0 to 7 years, it's not just our parents and primary caregivers, it's all of the other relations around us. It's all of the other external events outside of our control and it's all of what we're witnessing and learning from others that's teaching us, who am I in this world? How do I move through it safely? What does this mean? And so I think it's not the question of like, how do we prevent trauma from happening, because we can't, but more like, how can we really support, and I think even bringing into the conversation more of these modalities that understand trauma as the impact on the inside, because the more we can kind of engage in that space, the more there's compassion for all of us to go through our own healing journeys that we came here to have.
Yeah, perfect. I have a story about that from this weekend. So we were at a dance competition for 4 days, right? I have a 10-year-old boy and a 7-year-old girl. And so the 10-year-old boy, he was like the first 2 days, they got like awards and they're up on stage and they stay for like, there's a bunch of different sessions. And at the end of like all the day's sessions, they'll have overall awards. So we stayed for my sons. He got first for a duet. It was awesome. Then the next day, my daughter went up. They did great. They got awards. We didn't stay for the overalls because we got a text saying that your dog just had puppies, which we weren't expecting until next week. So our dog had 10 puppies. So we're like, okay, we've got to go. And then I could see it in my daughter's face. She was like, almost like, I'm not important enough. Like, she was so mad when she found out that they got overalls later on. And I'm just like, man, that's not the message. Like, right? But like you said, maybe 70 or 80% will hopefully be the right place. I did hear some hints at Gestalt psychology back there. You said something about top down, bottom up. And so you bring both of these with your approach. And maybe what would that look like?
Yeah. So, well, relating to that story though, I think too, there's always opportunity in the repair that has like a lot of really beautiful healing moments that can happen too. It's not always about like preventing some event from happening that's going to cause emotions, but more like holding the space for those emotions, validating those emotions. Like, I think that's part of the showing up as a parent. It's like there's real things that happen outside of your control, like your dog giving birth to puppies that, it's like you didn't schedule that. There wasn't, like C-section scheduled at this time. Like it happened. But, you hold the space for the emotions, you validate the feelings, you support through it, builds resilience and relationship. And, but yeah, the kind of top down and bottom up world that I don't want to be somebody that disregards the top down talk approach, because I do actually believe, we're here talking about story because story is so powerful. Like speaking our story, being validated in our story, being witnessed and heard in our story is so very important. And there's a lot of things that we need to process through on a talk level to make sense of. But then in the trauma world, there's a lot of also, we can't just talk our story in circles. We won't get anywhere at some point. We need to kind of go into the understanding of like, where is it frozen in time? So it's the internal family. I'm not sure if you're familiar, internal family systems approach a little bit. Yeah. So it's like the parts work, understanding that we are made of parts. And so meaning like, if I said, oh, should we, go grab dinner after the podcast? Like, yeah, part of me really wants to. And it's like, part of me really has to take care of these puppies. Like we've got these different parts that have different feelings and opinions. Part of me really wants to put myself out there in a more public way. Part of me is totally terrified about being seen or heard. And so when we start interacting with these parts, it also starts connecting in the world of Peter Levine and somatic experiencing. Okay, when I feel that part of me that says, yeah, I really want to put myself out there. And then I feel the part of me that says, no, we can't be seen. Oh, I notice that part, holds anxiety in me. I get this activation, and we can start kind of tracking it in the body. What does that feel like when that part comes up? And then through just connecting and falling through that, it will oftentimes let us know, how old does it think you are? And it'll tell us an age, like 70 years old, right? Like it'll go into that realm of time when we had an impactful experience that made us feel or believe something. And so, so it's kind of this both and of the top down and the bottom up, because sometimes we need to be able to process story, but other times we need to go, where is it being stored in my body? And can I witness the story from the perspective of that young child that went through it? Like give the talk almost, the power of talk almost to that young part, because our adult self can say, now as an adult, I can understand that my parents really had a lot going on, and like it wasn't their fault. They couldn't show up for me. But the child part didn't know that. The child part just felt like I'm not worthy of being loved or cared for or paid attention to, right? So it's like hearing from that perspective to support bringing some healing and truth through them.
Yeah, I love it. Bibliotherapy too, right? Like reading books and learning all these different things. Do you know who Ken Wilber is?
No, I don't, but I should write that down.
So he doesn't say family constellations or some of the words you just used, but he says about like hold-ons and just how we're so many different things. And I always use my example as I could be standing in a room with my mom, my daughter, and my wife. And in that same moment, I'm a son, a father, and a husband at the exact same time. And so these are all different hats that I have to try to juggle together. But bibliotherapy, reading, right? Talk therapy, talking it out. And yeah, I love it the way that you say it's great. Like it's important to integrate them, right? Not just one or the other. We have to have both. But then, yeah, it gets to a point. How long do you want to relive the past over and over every time? Let's move to the future. And so where I'm at, and I didn't know any of this stuff. And then all of a sudden, once I started seeing it, I'm like, whoa, I took a psychology course, and I'm sure every first year psychology student has this, but you start reading some of the things, you're like, I got that. That's me. Is that me? Is that me? Is that me?
That's honestly how I ended up like coming into the world of psychology. I was thinking, I'm going to be a civil engineer. I was taking all these math classes. Don't ask me why. Part of the programming in the box, right? Like, you're good at math. This is what you should do to be successful. So I started out that way. And then I took an elective of a psychology class, and like my eyes were just like, oh, and so I just started being fascinated by human beings, and it was so relatable, so much of it, right? And it's like once you see it, you can't unsee it, and then you start learning from all these different, um, these different theories and paradigms and understandings of what makes us up. And I love that example of when I'm standing in the room with all of these different people I'm in relationship with, I am all of these different roles, right? And like, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but they say if you want to know how healed you are, go spend some time with your family, because I think it kind of relates to like that concept of like when we go into especially our family of origin, we suddenly step back into that kind of role, being the child or being the sibling or being whatever, and anything that's still like kicking around there, it just gets activated, and like those show up differently. Yeah.
I see this with my sister-in-law, right? So there's 4 kids, and the youngest one, she's powerful and she does her thing and she knows and she's confident. The second she gets into that group, she just turns into the little one and like, I don't know anything. What should I do? And it's like, it's kind of funny to watch it.
Totally. It's like you said, those different hats, those different roles, depending on the context we're in, different parts of us are going to get super activated. And I mean, I work with people through this stuff. I learn about this stuff. I teach about this stuff, and I witness it happening in me all the time. I am in no way above this stuff. I very much walk the path and the journey and noticing like, oh yeah, when I went home for Christmas, that like, older sister vibe really just showed up in a really sassy way, and not loving that. We're going to spend some time like understanding that. But yeah, it's fascinating.
That's awesome. I just posted a quote yesterday about it was Carl Jung saying like, until the unconscious is conscious, you'll just walk around thinking everything's fate. And then, but like, so what you're saying is you realize it, and then now that's how you can tell you grow too, right? You go back to your family, but not only that, it's like that you don't just fall into that same pattern, or that you can step back and almost detach from it. I guess that's more Buddhist philosophy, but
yeah, that observer state, right? That kind of being able to be witness of what, and sometimes you're witnessing in the moment. You're almost like you step back and you're like, you're hearing yourself yelling. You're like, what? Why? Like, what's going on? Like, this chick's really upset right now. Like, you're noticing yourself in that process. But it is, I think, a sign of healing is when we can just recognize what's happening, because otherwise, exactly like that quote, we are just assuming that, things are just happening as fate, not recognizing how much of our subconscious beliefs, feelings, experiences are running the show moment to moment. And especially when it comes to picking and choosing relationships and, all of these different types, what we choose to pursue and what we choose to do, where we go, what we wear, like we think we're really consciously in control of it. And there's a lot going on below the surface that is informing all of those decisions.
yeah, I love it. And so family constellations, there's another one that's family something. Did I mix it up?
Yeah, I don't do family constellations, but I've been really curious about it because I've heard and human design, and like there's a lot that I've heard that I've been really fascinated by. This is called internal family systems, but I think what it really is connecting to is just it's the way that we are wired, and I think it's had lots of different names and shown up in lots of different ways over time, right? Right now, Richard Schwartz is the one that has kind of brought it into the Western world. There's a really great book for anybody that's interested in diving deeper. It's called No Bad Parts, and it's really understanding that all parts of us, there's actually none of them that are bad, even the ones that we like hate and want to get rid of and we like villainize. All parts of us have shown up in some way to support us along our path. And at some point in time, we're playing an adaptive role. I mean, if maybe we were raised in an environment where there was a lot of chaos, and the only way to be safe was to be really small and really quiet, right? And now we like hate the part of us that keeps us small and quiet because we want to have our voice and we want to say our truth, but there's this part of us that holds us back, and we hate that part. But when we get to know it, we realize, oh, it just still thinks I'm that little kid and it's trying to keep me safe, and I just have to kind of bring it on board. So so that's the kind of the internal family systems model, but it's really tapping into what I think it's just existed in the collective unconscious for a long time. This idea that we are so many parts, we are multifaceted, and we just we can interact with and heal by connecting to these parts.
Integrate the shadow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's shadow work, inner child healing, all of it.
And so I meant to say earlier about inner child. I have a course. It's the book. Have you ever read The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron?
I've been recommended that book so many times, and I have not read it yet, but clearly I need to read it. Yeah.
Does it bring the unconscious conscious? You'll think it's fate. So anyway, that book I took, and then the Tao Te Ching, and I kind of mixed the two books together and made it into a course. And like week 10 or 11 out of 12 is the inner child. But everybody always wants to go right at the beginning to the inner child. I'm like, we need to do some other stuff first. Like, and it's just when you're said about the inner child work, how it's so important. I think like it comes up again that, yeah, like everybody wants to go there right away, which it's a good. That means they're like noticing it. But at the same time, we have other work to do first. And it's all work, right? And I love what you said earlier, that you're not just doing it from the textbook and you're a licensed counselor and you know psychology, but you've also like walking the path, right? You're doing the work on yourself, which allows you to give back in such a better way.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, because I do believe in this statement that we can only take people as far as we've gone in ourselves, right? Otherwise, it just really does become the blind leading the blind. And, credentials are great, but also they only mean so much. And, I kind of liken it to like, if I'm going to go climb Mount Everest, do I want my guide to be that PhD professor that has studied the mountain for like 10 years and can write all the papers about it? Or do I want that local that has walked that mountain so many times and knows the ins and outs of it because he's like been on that path, right? Has no letters behind his name, but has walked that journey. I'd be surprised if anybody wouldn't go with that guide, right? And I think it's kind of the same in our healing, is to really, and when people are looking for who do I want to work with and where do I want to connect, I think it's a good question to ask of going, what's your healing journey like? What are you walking through or working through? Because we're all just walking each other home. And just because you might be in a helping profession doesn't mean you're above or separate from the healing journey, right? We're in the thick of it. And the reason I do this work now is because, okay, I've been in the dark night of my soul multiple times, and I've had so much support to really encounter that, oh, there's a way through. And there's actually sacred opportunity that comes through the breakdown. And there is a potential for a great expansion that can come from those space. And so now I feel like, okay, I want to walk into that dark place with you too, because I know for you, there is that same opportunity. And I wouldn't know that if I haven't encountered that,
Yeah, that's gold. So I would call that like harvesting the gold. You have to go back, and I facilitate a group for anxiety, depression, chronic pain. And all the time, this is like, you have to go look for it. It's not going to just jump out. But if you look, it's there. There's gold. You just have to go harvest it. And I think, what's his name? Oh, Joseph Campbell, he has a quote. He's like, the cave that you fear to enter holds your greatest treasure.
Oh, that needs to be posted on a wall, because I notice this too. I'll be able to know if I'm resisting going into one of those caves in myself. If I notice that, hey, this week my client sessions aren't going super deep. We're not having big breakthroughs. And it's because there's something I'm resisting in myself that I'm needing to meet, I'm needing to work through in order for their parts. It's such an energetic exchange. It's not spoken, it's not conscious. Neither of us are really aware it's happening. But there are like energetic exchanges happening between our parts, where somebody's parts will say, what, she's resisting right now, so she's not really qualified to take us into this place until she goes there in herself. And I notice, and then as soon as I go, okay, I face it, and I have my big, emotional moving of usually tears and understanding and healing, then I'll meet a client and suddenly we drop right in and we go to those places. But you have to walk it. It's so directly correlated. Yeah.
Right. So it's information, right? They're all signals, and you're getting that information. And I know exactly. Sometimes I'm just like, you're not feeling it, or just whatever. There's something deeper that you have to look at, and you can tell. And it comes with practice, I think. You just have to practice.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we're really good at trying to avoid it.
Oh, the
You know?
best. Yeah, we're getting better now. We got 1 minute videos we can watch forever.
Yeah, that's true. And I that's actually one of my tells too. That's interesting you say that. I will notice if I'm avoiding healing in myself because I'm reading everything. And it's like the reading is so good. Like that is part of therapy, but sometimes it becomes the way to convince myself that I'm doing the work because I know it. Like I'm absorbing it on this like cognitive level, but I'm not integrating it. And so I'm just like, oh, well, I watched 100 reels on these really good topics and I know so much about it now. Right. But
Wow.
like, yeah, that
That's
integration
great.
piece.
It's good that you can see that, right? Because if you don't see it, yeah, it'll just keep happening. So it's good. And then you just use it however you want. I have another quote here. I love it. It's from Jay Shetty, Think Like a Monk, but I think it's like from Vedic text that he got it from. But it says, location has energy and time has memory. And so when we're talking trauma, that goes right to that.
Yeah. Location has energy. And say that again.
The location has energy and time has memory. So what it is, like, if you journal every day at 8 o'clock in the morning, eventually your body will just get up and go there. And if you do it at the same spot every day, then that location or workspace has energy. I'll give you one. So I used to watch college football like addictively. Like I watched Notre Dame my whole life, put on the gear every Saturday, right? I stopped watching it. And then like, honestly, like 6, 7 years later, the very first weekend, Labor Day, it starts. And like Labor Day weekend, I go in my closet, put on the shirt, and I wasn't watching the game, but I just did it. And I'm like, wow, that's how embedded these things are, that like my body knows that, okay, Labor Day weekend, we got to put this shirt on. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, and that can be in such a positive way. It's like the book Atomic Habits. Like he really utilizes those principles in really powerful ways. And also sometimes we can recognize how that same pattern of showing up in that way because that was our survival mechanism and that's what we had to do and how we had to be. Like how that just becomes our way of being to the point where it's no longer conscious. We're not even aware that we're doing it, right? And I think that's where relationships become this big, huge mirror for us because things that we were just doing, subconsciously because this is how I was programmed to do it because I always do it like this. Now suddenly we've got this mirror in front of us that's saying, hey, that's not working for me. And we're like, what do you mean? That's just how I am. The classic, this is just who I am, accept me for who I am, right? It's like, oh, or maybe there's a part of me here showing up in a way that I haven't really quite understood. I haven't taken the time to get to know. Why am I putting on that shirt? But in the version of showing up. Yeah.
That's exactly what I did. I was like, why am I doing this? And it's like, I don't know. Like, you know who Joe Dispenza is?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
And so he always says something about the river of change or something where you like, people are afraid to go over it because they just want to go back to what's familiar. And that's what came to me when I did that. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm just going back here because it's familiar. And then again, actually, to add on to that with noticing the patterns, it's like, okay, I'm close. Every time for me, something like that, there's resistance. It's like, okay, you're close. Or even if you're feeling really low or something like that, it means something's about to happen, almost like you're shedding layers. And so now when those things happen like that, I'm like, okay, something good's about to happen.
Ah, that's so beautiful to be able to have that shift of awareness, right? Because that's that entering into that kind of unknown space that we've really conditioned ourselves to fear. And to the point that, like you said, what's familiar, like we will revert to what is familiar, even if what's familiar is totally detrimental to our well-being, even if what's familiar is absolute chaos. Like and I just use a relationship as an example all the time because it's just one of the main ways that we really find our mirrors and our patterns in life. But like we will choose the relationship that has the familiar energy, even if that familiar energy is totally destructive, because we feel safer in the known, that sense of the known. And Joe Dispenza talks about that a lot, right? Of really like working so hard to help us shift into that unknown and firing and wiring new neural pathways that can like get us into this, field of infinite possibility where the unknown or those moments of resistance or change where we're breaking away from what's familiar becomes suddenly this catalyst towards expansion, towards new opportunity. And there was, I think it was early on in some of this like, whoa, awareness for me. I was going, what if instead of assuming that the next thing coming around the corner is like the worst thing ever? Because that's usually how we approach the unknown. If I don't know what's happening, all my defenses are up. It's like, what if we walk through life assuming that the best thing ever, right, is about to appear? Like, energetically, how would that feel moving through life that way? Been working on that. Still working on it.
It seems like a much better way to live, right? I think this one, something great is about to happen was like, I went to this conference, they all had bracelets, something amazing is about to happen, and it kept going. But yeah, it's such a different paradigm. Joe Dispenza is huge. He helped me so much. Like, just to realize, like, man, that those are little things when you're a kid and you don't have to continue to carry it with you, that you can put it down just like a bag of rocks or whatever, right?
Yeah, exactly. And usually it is something symbolic that I'll do with clients when we're at that, inner child state. And it's almost a bit of a shamanic experience of inviting in, do you want to burn this in the fire? Do you want to, yeah, sometimes. And it's great because the inner child, like when you're connecting, and it gets very visual for some people, it gets very humorous sometimes of like, how do they want to release this? And sometimes it is like a bag of rocks and they're just throwing it into the ocean, or sometimes it's going up in a balloon into the air. It's just this big fire. But, there's the switching towards that concept of something amazing is about to happen. I think this is kind of the why for diving into that harder stuff with it. Because like, if we don't go into that healing journey, we're still holding all parts of us that are bracing in fear for the other shoe to drop, right? Because they're still holding and frozen in time with the experiences of those times when something really bad did happen. And the protective mechanism is saying we need to be on guard and hypervigilant and alert and bracing so that somehow we can be prepared for if and when this happens again. And as long as we're still holding and storing all of that energy in our nervous system, it's really, really difficult to convince ourselves something amazing is going to happen when everything in our body is like, we're just trying to survive here and we're just trying to never let that bad thing happen again. Right? And then we start filtering. Let's just get a little bit nerdy with the nervous system for a second here, because we've got like 11 million pieces of information coming through neuroception every second, something like that. Google the stats. It's an insane amount of information hitting us. And then about 40 pieces of information are making its way through. And then 7 pieces of information are actually coming into our working memory, right? So when we think that there's so much information all the time coming at us, and only 7 of those pieces are we really working with, what's determining what 7 pieces of information I'm perceiving? And it's all of that energy stored inside of it. It's all of those experiences, those feelings, those beliefs. So if what's running the show inside and filtering is the belief that I'm not worthy, and the belief that nobody likes me, and the belief that I'm alone in the world, and the belief that, right, life is hard and it's always going to be hard, I'm only letting the pieces of information that confirm that come into my awareness. And now perception is reality. That's what I'm perceiving. And so that's the reality I'm living. As we go in to start healing those different beliefs and we start to release it, suddenly now we make room for some of these thoughts and ideas like, well, maybe the next thing that's going to happen is going to be amazing. Maybe something amazing is going to happen. We've got room for it because now suddenly we're going to be picking up on the magic. We're going to have like a filter that's out searching for and pulling into our awareness those amazing things that are happening around us all the time that we just weren't perceiving before. That was a lot. Sorry, but I get excited about it.
No, I love it. It's like people are manifesting anyway when they're like, oh, it never happens to me. I can't do that. I never get lucky. And, blah, blah, blah. And like, you're getting it. You just don't realize you're getting it. So my whole thing, that's what we focus on expands. That's what it's all about, is like, you can literally make it up. I did this a couple years ago. I ran a marathon just to show people, like, I'm not going to do it. I can't do it. I've never done it. But look, this is how we're going to do it. And we're going to make it up. And we did it. And it's like, whoa.
Amazing. That's really amazing. Yeah. I mean, it's good to just start becoming aware of what are the ways that I'm perceiving the world around me. Like, I even recently came into contact with a a thought in my head, it must be nice. And then once I caught that one, I was going, ooh, okay. So I went and did big work with my own healer of going into this narrative in my head when I saw other people having something or experiencing something I wanted, of me being like, wow, it must be nice. And that deep victim idea that I couldn't have it, must be nice for them to have it. And how much that was totally influencing what I was open to and allowing for myself. So it's interesting to pay attention and to catch it, and then to also challenge it and go, you know what if actually I choose that I can run a marathon, and that's the information and that's the energy that I'm gonna be tuning into, and then prove it. Like, that's amazing. I don't think I'm gonna try it with that one. I'm really up to the marathon, but I'll try it in a different realm maybe.
Yeah. I think this is a great conversation, but I think we need to go more towards your business before we run out of time, because I could talk to you for hours, but I'm definitely going to respect your time. So maybe let's learn a bit more about your business. We got there at the beginning, but tell us more about it.
Yeah, well, and I mean, all of this is connected, right? I do mostly one-on-one work right now, as well as speaking and teaching about the nervous system, about parts work, about healing. I'm writing my book right now on my own story through narcissistic abuse, and the working title the working title for that in my mind is "You Are Not Crazy," because I feel like that's kind of the message I'm out here to share, is to really help all of us know, like, you're not crazy. The way that you are wired makes sense, even if it makes no sense to you right now. There will always be, if you spend the time and you have the support to connect to all of these different parts and how they're showing up in your life, it will always make sense. And I witness it time and time again with clients of just like, there's something happening, there's some way that they're showing up that they really hate. And then when we turn towards it, we start to understand it, they go, oh my God, that makes so much sense. And so that's really kind of the work I'm doing, whether it's the one-on-one clients. And so I'm actually traveling the world right now, just the digital nomad life, and working on Zoom. So I take clients on Zoom to do that one-on-one work of going, okay, let's see what parts are active, what's wanting to come through, and really trusting that inherent wisdom of the body, that whatever is ready to be supported through is gonna show up. And then I also teach workshops and do speaking on these topics, and so that's the world I'm in right now.
That's an awesome world to be in. I love it. Speaking workshops, that's right on my alley. So I think as we begin to wind down, if this episode resonates with you, please like, subscribe, share, follow, but no hard sell. Leave a review on Spotify, Apple, or even YouTube. These all help very much. And reach out to Carissa. She's a licensed counselor. She can help you there. She's a coach, somatic breathing, yoga, workshops, public speaking if you need a speaker to talk about any of these things. And definitely it sounds like you're into the energy world a lot. Can we maybe go there for a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, my mom brought the energy world into our house about like 15 years ago, because she was a physiotherapist, and she was noticing as she was working with people as a physio that she's starting to get really sick and wasn't understanding what was going on. And she ended up getting trained by Donna Eden, the Eden method. If you're familiar, Donna's amazing. And so she brought that. And for many years, we referred to it as mom's weird shaky hand thing, because we didn't understand what she was doing, what was going on. Now it's a practice I integrate every single day, is doing my energy routine and the more that I think that we work with our own energy and become aware of this idea that, we are energy and everything is energy. And it starts to really transform, not just like the world we're perceiving around us, but relationships, our sense of self, our sense of, and into the world of our sense of healing too, of kind of healing into that space of using that energy to really heal. And so that's what we really follow when we do the parts work and that inner child healing, is really following the energy, right? Where is the energy trapped and encoded and stuck in the physical body? And what's amazing is that as we connect to it, it shifts, right? That those places that felt dense and cold and hard and slow suddenly start to expand. Suddenly shoulders will be relaxing, or energy will be lifting, or digestion will be coming on. Like, it moves and transforms just by bringing our awareness. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. using that method of as we bring that attention into those spaces, the energy starts flowing there and it starts moving. And that's that shift that's happening, that healing that's happening. And we're just tapping into the intelligence that exists within. It's really, it blows my mind every time that I'm doing this work with people. It's like, wow, that was wild. I can't wait to see what happens next.
Right. And if some of it, like, I don't know, I've had experiences where there is no other way to explain it. Like, it's just not possible any other way.
Absolutely. I think that I've started to say if I'm referring to something as coincidence, it means I'm just not paying attention. Like,
Yeah, I love it.
synchronicity is everywhere. Yeah.
So the mind-body connection, that's a bit of Donna eating too, right? How does
Yeah.
that
And she,
work?
well, I think it ties into kind of some of the somatic support that I do with clients. Like I've got a free resource for anybody interested on my website that I had kind of put together between some of Donna Eden's practices and somatic presencing, which is just to support our nervous system. And so she does this energy, but she works really directly to work with the systems of the body. And so for those of us that are experiencing burnout or anxiety or depression or all of these different types of kind of dysregulation, meaning just we're not in that space that feels really blissful and good. Many of us are in states that are feeling tension or something off of that green zone we refer to it as, or that blissful state. There's a practice that I've put together of like 7 minutes. You can do it, every day. You can do it when you're just feeling stressed out. That just uses some of those techniques to just support, like even just hands over the eyes and on the forehead and just holding and bringing some blood flow back to like the parts of the brain that we need to be able to process and function, right? Because when we're really stressed, it pulls us out of this prefrontal cortex into this fight flight zone. So it all works together. The energy works with the emotions, works with the nervous system, works with the somatic experience. So a lot of what I do is just an intuitive integration of these beautiful practices that I've personally been so supported and healed by.
Yeah, I think the thing when you're talking about the prefrontal cortex, when you're in that fight, flight, freeze, you just disappear from that area. That's not even possible to go there, which it's like a double whammy because your brain just goes somewhere else, the blood's flowing somewhere else, but then you can't think of the right answer or you can't get yourself out of it.
This is exactly it, right? It's like it goes offline. And that's the cool part about the world of energy medicine now is that they can just measure this stuff. Like, Joe Dispenza is doing such cool research because he's got everybody hooked up to brain scans, and they're just showing like it goes offline when we go into fight or flight zone. And so we wonder, why am I so reactive? Well, it's because we're literally only firing from the part of the brain that is for reactive. We're not, this is the respond. This is our ability to reason. This is our ability to process, to be present, to be connected. And so the teaching that I do in the nervous system uses energy medicine and supports to help bring that energy flow back to the parts of the brain that are going to help us really move through. Because there's a lot of people, and me included, prior to understanding this, that really got upset when somebody would suggest I be mindful or suggest I do meditation. Because I'm like, sitting and breathing is not going to change this very real challenge going on in my life. Thank you for your advice. You can take it and leave. I didn't understand what it was doing, right? Like I didn't understand that doing those mindful-based practices were actually helping bring my nervous system back into a state of presence and safety, and bringing back online the parts of my brain and my system that I need to be able to move through that very real challenge in front of me. So one of the things that I'm passionate about doing is teaching and supporting an understanding of why, because otherwise we just feel like, yeah, everybody's telling you to go to yoga, but like, that's not going to change this, drama happening in my life if we don't understand what's happening inside of us and what we can be empowered to shift and change.
Yeah, like a Band-Aid, right? It's just a Band-Aid. It's not going to heal it. I think I had one similar, not mindful, but mine was, I have a tumor in my spine, but the doctors would always say, it's in your head. It's in your head. And it's a common one I hear from clients too, is like, it's in your head. It's in your head. And it is, but it's not. Like, so the person's feeling it somewhere else. And so maybe the approach that the doctors are using should be a little bit more mindful, because But tell the person it's in their head, and they don't need to hear that. They don't want to hear it. It's not helpful at all.
No, it's not helpful. It invalidates, because what it's in your head suggests is you're making it up, right?
Yeah.
Like just think something different and it won't be there. But this is that mind body connection, is that it can really, things that we experience can really manifest in very physical ways. And it can be directly linked to the world revolving around in our mind. Like I remember when I was 12, I was having lower back pain and problems. And my grandma asked me how my stress level was. And I have never been so offended in my life. I was like, Grandma, I have a real pain. Like I have a real injury. This is not in my head. Don't ask me how my stress level is. Like I was so offended. And now I teach about how, the impacts of stress and the things going on manifest in very physical, very real symptoms. And, you know, chronic pain is a very big example. Chronic pain is not in your head. It is very real and lived in the body. And we can do a lot of that somatic presencing and work and understanding of rewiring the system to support releasing and healing for some very real physical conditions. I've been doing that work in my own body too, and have actually unwound something, some benign tumors in my body that were meant to only grow bigger and have actually shrunken about half the size by undoing some of those processes. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Didn't expect that.
Yeah.
I felt when I first everything shifted for me about 6-7 years ago, and there was one moment where I felt like my brain almost clicked. Like it was a definite shift, and I don't know what it was, but around that same time there was lots of cathartic releases, some scars coming to the surface, and there was tons of healing so fast. Obviously it looks like it's going to continue for the rest of our lives, but at that time that one little area was all the years of trauma and releasing it. But I felt something click in my brain. I don't know if that's normal though.
Interesting. That kind of sounds like a little bit of what yogis refer to as kind of a Kundalini awakening, right? Of a lot of energy moving and kind of having this kind of almost enlightenment moment of the energy activating, and really the pineal gland in our brain. So you're something clicked in my mind, something opened, and a lot of energy moved. But it's very real when energy is moving, when emotions are releasing, when we're having these experiences of some scars and all these things coming up and coming through, we will feel it in our physical system. I always tell people, I hope you drank lots of water and had some good rest after that, because it is like an internal marathon, right? All we did was sit here and feel emotion, and we're exhausted after, we've got a headache or whatever. And you have to actually nurture the physical body too, because a lot can sometimes it gets excited. The channel opens and a lot was ready to move, and it just does. And you got to kind of ride it through. But that's really interesting, that experience you have.
Love this. I always ask everybody this. This is the Phase 4 podcast. Phase 4 in the 6-phase meditation by Vishen Lakhiani is all about creating a future 3 years out. So where is Carissa 3 years from today?
Oh, beautiful. Future pulling. I'm all for this. Yeah. So my book is out, and I am able to be on stages speaking and sharing about these things that I'm passionate about. In 3 years, I am very excited to be running retreats and spaces where we can have in-person opportunity to really move through some of the practices and be, I think there's something powerful about coming together in circle and coming together in community. And so that definitely, those kind of two, the world of speaking and sharing, and then the world of being in those retreat offerings and spaces. I'm really excited. I'm putting a lot of energy and a lot of future pulling towards creating both of those 3 years out. So we'll check
Love that.
Time.
Yeah, it's huge, right? You have to. I love that question because, from Joe Dispenza, we're pretty much stuck in the past, most of our thoughts, right? So when you ask this question, it gives you a little bit of playtime to create your future, think about it. And in this world that we're in right now, spiritually, coaching, counseling, psychotherapist, all of it, it's already happening. But when I just go in my community to the grocery store, or if I'm talking to someone in the neighborhood, it's you ask that question and people are shocked. They're like, what? What? I wouldn't be doing. it's like no one ever gave them permission to feel or dream or think. And it's almost sad in one way.
Yeah, and that's why it's so huge that you're asking that question, because I think, that's an invitation to all the listeners to ask that question of themselves too. Where am I in 3 years? Right? And if I'm the one co-creating with life here, what that's going to look like. What do I want? What if I gave myself permission to just imagine in a wild way? Rather than, like Joe Dispenza says, what we often do is take our known experience and what's happened and project it into our future, and then we just keep reliving the exact same thing over and over again. He says we need to almost live like we're that child waking up on a field trip day with that excitement and anticipation of, I have no idea what's coming today. Like shifting into that, and then, now we're in the field of infinite possibility. And if I'm there, how do I want my life to look in 3 years? And why not put energy into that?
Yeah, I love it. So before I ask my final question, I usually let the guests take it wherever they want. So if you have something to sell it. If you have a message of hope, inspiration, upcoming workshop, whatever it is, tell us whatever you want.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm definitely open right now for opportunities. I'm very fluidly moving through the world, so I am open for opportunities for speaking. So if this is resonating with people and they've got space or events that are looking for some more of this kind of conversation, that's something that I'm open to and excited about. But my real big message here is to anybody listening that you make sense. You are not crazy. Your experiences are valid, and there is a path of healing that is you're already on. If you're listening to a podcast like this, you're already on that journey. We all are. We're walking each other home here. We're side by side in this. And when we're exposed to this world of so much information, trust the inner wisdom, right? What resonates is for you right now, and leave whatever doesn't. If there's something that just kind of like, that's not clicking right now, it's because it's not for right now. And that's the more we can tune inward and really trust that, okay, what is for me is going to land, and it's for me right now, and I can start to move from that space, from that internal guidance, from that intuitive knowing. Then I can receive and absorb all sorts of information and trust that what I need right now is going to be what I'm ready to integrate and to walk through. So that journey home to self is to just keep coming back into that center and trusting that that's the place that's going to guide you in your highest path, in your highest self.
Awesome. That's beautiful. I know I said I was going to ask my last question, but now my intuition is asking about intention. What do you think about intentions? How do they play? And can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah. Okay. Intention. I think this is something I've been really working on in my own life, of realizing the power of intention, and that if that kind of like you said, we're always manifesting all the time. And that if I'm not consciously intending my energy towards that which I want to experience and that which I want to create, I'm allowing those subconscious beliefs and programs to kind of intentionally call in more energies and experiences that are going to match what's already there. And so bringing intention, intending to meet these parts. I'm going to switch intention also to willingness, because that's something that I say in the healing space is the only ingredient I need. The only thing I ask is the willingness, right? Just the willingness, having my intention is to heal. My intention is to be here. I have the willingness to show up, because if we have that, then it all opens. Then there's nothing that's going to stop you, right? It will be there. You will encounter what's for you on your next path, what you're needing to overcome, what you're needing to understand. So that intention and willingness is just really magic in this realm. It's really all you need, and it'll start showing up for you.
Amazing. And my final question is, how can people reach you?
Oh, awesome. My website is www.carissabrockman.com, Carissabrockman. And I'm on Instagram at somatically embodied, which I'm working on putting out some more supportive resources there as well. But those are the two main places for me right now.
All right. That's awesome. We'll put those in the show notes. And Carissa, I'm so grateful for your time today. Thank you so much. This was awesome.
This is fabulous. Thank you very, very much. Thank you for the beautiful grounding practice we did prior to hopping on here. I really appreciate your intention and the energy you bring into this space. And I know there's just a ripple effect going out from it. So I feel really grateful to have been a part of it.